Hey, I'm back with Pal. We're gonna talk about a bunch of Dota 2 stuff since it is primo time to do so. I'm actually gonna do one with Pal, one with Knoxville, but because both of you guys are on the separate
Yeah.
ends of the earth, it's like literally impossible to get everybody into one place to
I know time
actually
zones suck.
do it, right? Cause
Yep.
yeah, so here we are, but it's a great time to do it because the final DPC event has ended. TI quals are starting, and the next DPC has already been announced with all of its format changes and all that. So, where did you want to start? Do you want to start with DPC, the quals, or the super major?
I guess we start with the super major, right? Because it
All right.
sets everything up very, very neatly to the most wonderful time of the year, which is DI.
Mm-hmm.
It's Christmas for Dota nerds.
Yep. All right. So let's go to the super major, and you want to? I guess we'll start from the very top. May as well. So Liquid has returned, resurgent,
Right?
victorious. Have they didn't win a single DPC like major, I think, all year, I believe, even though they won a few minors or something like that.
They won a few minors. They went second in a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
So just the fact that they won the last one, I thought was just a really, really big
Mm-hmm.
statement to send. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the storylines from the Super Major. It was very, very neatly told, which is really strange.
Yeah, everything worked out almost exactly as you'd hoped.
Yeah.
But we'll get
Uh,
to that later, I guess. Okay. Uh,
so the thing is, they didn't win a minor. They went second in a few and top eight in just almost all of them.
yeah.
Right. So they made second in Dream League. They made second at Epicenter, and Epicenter was the big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Epicenter was their stomping grounds,
Yeah.
and they didn't win that. They lost it to LGD, and so this is their first win of this season. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
Pretty.
Oh wait, did they win a major? Yeah, they won. Was this? Let's see. This is a qualifier, I believe. Star Ladder I League against LGD.
That was like no. You're looking at Wikipedia. Like when they say major, they actually mean minor,
Right.
right?
Right. So they did win one. They won I League. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Premier is what Liquidpedia uses for the
Majors.
major.
And then minors are the other thing. Like I think they did very well overall
Right.
considering. But yeah, so Liquid, I guess I'll go ahead and start. I actually wrote about a bunch of these teams and I will be releasing these articles eventually as we get towards TI. Actually,
Right.
the one I'm most excited about is how I explain how Q is actually a fucking genius for getting Shiki to a finals of TI. Um, but Liquid, how do I explain? I guess this team, it's very likely that they're going to be the only. I think they might win TI. I guess I'll put it that way. I think they might win TI.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. I think this is the first post or no. This is the first time in the history of competitive Dota where right after the superpowers at the beginning of the season are the
Mm-hmm.
same superpowers at the end of the season, bearing one or two
Differences.
entries, right? Like LGD. Like LGD came in late towards the season, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
basically half the season was done. LGD came back really, really strong. But even that is sort of an asterisk because, as a lot of people know, the thing with Chinese Dota is that their season doesn't really start until after January or February
Mm-hmm.
because that's the time after
Chinese
Chinese
New
New
Year's.
Year. Yeah, when they can really put in the resources for training because then they would have been able to get around the trade deadlines set by Ace.
Yeah.
So, the contracts expire Chinese New Year, so there's not really a lot of point to put in all of that work in a roster if you're going to change it right after then or if someone's about to leave. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, so for this season, I absolutely agree with you that I think Liquid is a really good shot at becoming champion.
I actually think they're the
Although,
favorite.
yeah,
I
I, eh,
here's why I think they're gonna be the favorite.
Sure.
TI is unlike every other tournament of the year in the sense that it's not just about Dota. It's not just about your skill or your strategy. It's actually also about your mental fortitude.
Right.
It's like
Oh yeah, they have that. They have that in spades.
and they have that in spades. And I'm looking around and I look at Virtus.pro and I look at Virtus.pro and I think these guys are incredibly aggressive and they sometimes that also means that when it comes to the crunch time, they will push too hard
Right.
and then throw, and then if they
Right.
throw, they tilt, and then they're out. Or I look at LG and I look at Game Two against Virtus.pro and I think if they get one bad loss in the playoffs at TI, they're gonna break.
Right. So I think on that axis, I absolutely agree that Liquid would be a favorite. The thing that you know, the thing that I'm putting a little bit more weight to is just existential counters, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what we've seen from the SuperMajor was a great example of this, where a good format produced, you know, the right result, where you saw the really powerful teams were basically the top four, right?
Yeah.
The top four of the DPC were the top four.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at them, they all have sort of signature styles. They all have when you're looking at a liquid draft.
Mm-hmm.
You know when you're looking at VP play, right? You know when you're seeing LGD team fight. You know how Secret is going to scale into the late game.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm looking at going into TI is that this year, weirdly enough, we've had so many patch changes, some of them really fucking with the standings every now and then, but the top teams are the teams that have really, really solid playstyles, really solid identities. And when you put those identities against each other, Liquid, I would say, would rank somewhere around third.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to create a whole rock paper scissors lizard Spock diagram,
Yeah.
you know, there are going to be some statistically more powerful playstyles. And I think Liquid, they've been doing the same thing for last year. They're clearly very good at it. Matumba Band should never ever get Visage ever
Yeah.
again,
Probably
forever, right? But when you take a look at VP, VP is playing the purest form of Dota right now.
not. Mm-hmm.
They just are. It's the purest form of Dota, and I think it's still going to favor them a little bit on as the tournament goes, because when you're going to face someone who just has a really really solid game plan that they don't need to think about, I think it sort of alleviates from the mental fortitude, because you don't need to. You can just default into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that sort of it's the idea that when all else fails, you don't need to think.
Yeah.
You don't need to think. And the person who doesn't need to think and just it's all muscle memory, they're just gonna execute. I think they're gonna have the upper hand. So I'm still willing to give it to VP that they are the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But when push comes to shove and it has to be just their mentality that carries them over, I think Liquid would have the advantage there. So I agree with you on that point.
Yeah. I mean, we did see the matchup, even though obviously Roger wasn't in it. Lil was last year.
Right.
It was actually a very incredibly close series. I think there's an argument to be made that was the actual TI finals. It's either that or LFY. Definitely not
Yeah, I would
newbie.
say LFY. Yeah, I would say LFY.
Yeah.
The newbie one was
Was not.
it was classic newbie in that it was very disappointing.
Yeah.
So
Basically, I feel like newbie really shouldn't have gotten that far, but props to them. And newbie, I think I said this right after TI too. I thought they should break up, but they didn't. And here they are like half a dead carcass into TI. Like congrats, you got into TI, but you're not gonna get
right.
much further, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this again, if we're talking about storylines, it's just looking at newbie, the once proud house of deathballing everything to win the Aegis. It's I don't know what happened actually. Just to be absolutely 100% honest, I don't know what happened to newbie this year. Um, there would be Siri. They're clearly not a bad team, right?
But
They're
they're
clearly
not.
not a bad team.
But they're not a great team.
They're not a great team, and that's the problem with them. Because when you take a look at their results this season, it's all pretty solid. right?
Yeah.
Like they won a minor. That minor had an asterisk because number one, it was one of the first where people started really saying, well, this format is terrible. But they beat Liquid there.
Yep.
They beat Liquid, and that was when they pulled out the mobile team fight anywhere strat, where they
Mm-hmm.
just open the draft with Disruptor and Naga, and then they've landed in the top eight for a lot, for a lot of these,
Like
for a lot of these minors and majors. So they're clearly not bad, but when you look at them play, though, there's clearly a problem there.
it's like
I-
right after they beat Liquid, it felt like they just stopped trying.
It kind of felt that way. It kind of felt that way. Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like you're like Swindles on the panel, like going on and on, and I actually agree with him. Like this team is not evolving to the same pace as like yeah, Liquid play the same style, but you know they like update the playbook. They try to add in new heroes. They got Visage, they got Tinker. Yeah, Virtus
Right.
Pro always adding new shit. Yeah, like
Right.
Secret, like yeah, they had their ups and downs, but they've come back strong at the very end here, realizing that in fact they do need to play this like late game scaling style. And then
Right.
you have like newbie just degrading with
Yeah, I agree. The funny thing is, I had a conversation with Ace because he was here in the Philippines for a few days. I haven't released the footage because I need to clear it up with management of Secret.
mm-hmm,
But one thing that he did say was that he's looking. You know, we were talking about in the interview. We were talking about team styles, right?
yeah,
Team identities, and he commented on their end that they just sort of stumbled into this sort of late game scaling because it's not like they're always planning to. You know what? We'll take this into the late game. They're not Fnatic. You know, they're not. Fnatic is a team that really puts it in the top of their head that we are going to take this if the game goes longer because they have a bed and they have Eternal Envy.
mm-hmm,
Um, and they have DJ, who is a very,
very
very,
good,
very good forward that scales with more items, right?
mm-hmm,
But with Secret, they just sort of stumbled into it because they were playing so many events. And then he commented that with this, he thinks the same is happening with Newbie. Because if you recall, Newbie had that one strange month where they flew into Europe to play an event. After the event, they flew back to China to play a qualifier. And then after that, they went back to Europe for another event. And that's just the way the DPC is. So he made the comment that maybe it's the same thing is happening with newbie where they're just so tired from traveling that there's no time to think about how to add new things because they're clearly not practicing, right? They're,
mm-hmm.
they're clearly not practicing in the same way that in past seasons teams would spend weeks in a boot camp. They would either get a farm team or just spend the time scrimming with some team and then sort of develop strategies that way. But now it's just they get to an event. There's a media day somewhere there. There's probably 1 or 2 days before the event, and that's the only time they practice. For some of these teams, they're practicing during the event,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
During the group
I
stages.
mean,
And newbie is the worst hit.
it's also exacerbated by the fact that basically last year has been like every 2 weeks new patch.
Right.
So I can kind of understand where they're coming from. It's like the patch is going to change anyway. Do we really need to practice? Like,
Right. I'm sure that's a non-zero factor.
yeah, like, and but here's actually where I think newbie went wrong. Is I said this right after Ti. Also, I thought they should get Xiao 8 back
Yeah.
because I feel like Xiao 8's clearly a guy who's going to give you the ideas and solutions immediately. Whether or not they're right or wrong, he's going to convince the rest of the team to just go all in on them, and that's always worth
Right.
something, right? So I always thought Xiao 8 was going to be the answer solution for this team, but apparently not this time. So I'm
Didn't
really
Shahid go to eHome? Didn't he go to eHome to
yeah.
coach eHome?
He's going to coach eHome. I have no clue how that's going to work. I think he's just going to kick a player at some point and then play himself.
And then play himself.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
that's
I
my
mean, I
guess.
mean, so eHome has. Doesn't eHome have faith and innocence?
Yeah.
Don't they have like faith and innocence now?
Old chicken also CTY.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well,
And
that's
some dude named Guevara who is going to get kicked by Xiao 8 so Xiao 8 can play.
so Shao is gonna play. Yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Xiaoyi was a pretty decent offlaner from what I remember. So,
Right.
yeah, like, do you believe in any of the Wings guys? Actually, on an off tangent, do you believe in any of these Wings guys still have it in them?
Are we talking about eHome?
Yeah, or ex Wings, because they're all dead. So,
Right. I don't know. So here's the thing I've also sort of come to appreciate over this whole DPC, the inaugural season of the DPC, right?
mm-hmm.
Talent's not gonna get you far in the world of Dota right now. You can have all the talent you want in the world, but if you don't have the time to come together as a team, if you don't have the incentive to grow together as a team, you're not really going to make something out of it. It'll take it's too everyone else is too set up. The thing with the DPC this year is that it's a rich get richer sort of
Scheme.
world. It's a rich get richer sort of world right now, right?
Yeah.
Um, that if you are not already set up for success, it's going to be really hard for you to just come from behind. And maybe the patches coming more frequently should allow you to do that, but it's clearly not working. So when you take a look at eHome, they have X-Wings players. These are players who showed us that they can pull out just a random strategy out of their ass and just prize people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you would think that frequent patches should be able to do that. But when you take a look at it deeper, you would see that who are they actually going to scrim with in China?
Nobody.
Right? And China would have just on average they would have better scrim partners compared to like SEA or SA or maybe even CIS.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically speaking, are any of the top 8 Chinese teams going to scrim with eHome? Maybe, but most likely not, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to scrim with them just because they're eHome and that they have Xiao 8.
Yeah.
So it's already 50-50 on that front. And then on top of that, you have everyone else who's already going to the DPC. Like we've been bagging on Newbie, we've been bagging on Vici Gaming, J Thunder,
And Vici and all the other
right.
Chinese teams,
and all,
except LGD.
exactly, but except LGD, right? But these are all clearly battle tested throughout the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the entire year. So I'm not sold that just because they were ex-Wings players, they can make a comeback, much less get through the qualifiers to begin with. Like,
I'm not even sure they're going to make it out of the open. So
right.
It's a rough world out there in China.
Exactly, right? That you take a look at China, and let's remember, Keen Gaming knocked out Secret,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Secret. So I'm not entirely sure if just because they're ex-Wings players, they can make it through. I'm not sold on it just now.
Yeah, I don't think it. Like I think like TI6 was their like last hurrah. Like I think it's over for that team, or
it
all
felt
and all
like
their
it.
players, right? Like the only player I think might make a comeback is Faith Beyond, but he'd have to like bend the knee to Ace or something to get back into a good team.
Yeah, that's true.
So-
That's true. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it right now. Like, what other Chinese teams would they have to go through, right? Like, who else would they have to go through in order to just be able to compete in today's TI? So I'm taking a look at the teams in China. CDEC probably not gonna be that big of a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have Keen Gaming, which are pretty good. LFY, who sometimes here or there can show that they have some game still.
I mean, they still have
You
Awful,
have-
don't they? So I mean, I think Awful alone
Yeah.
could take them out.
Right. Miracles in IG Vitality, they played that. Didn't they
Mhm.
play the major? They played MDL, right?
Yeah.
They played MDL. So these are the kind of teams that they have to go through, and these are the teams they're also practicing with. So all things being equal, I don't think they're that much better than these teams because you're clearly going to be stronger than these teams if you practice with the stronger teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what incentive Newbie has to play with them.
I mean,
I don't know what
I will say
incentive
it's
LGD.
technically possible to get better even with worse practice partners, but these guys, I don't see it. Like it takes a very specific type of player to do that. Like we're talking about like a bunch of the all time greats have done it. Like
Right.
SK and Fallen and NA, Rafa from
Right.
Quake, like Infiltration from Korea, like extreme examples of players who could do it. I don't think these guys
Right.
can do it. So yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
basically gone.
Yeah. That's sort of what I'm hinting at, right? Like, it's very we as gamers, or I think like the audience, they like to think that, oh, this team had this talent and so they can make a comeback. They've done it before, but the reality is that that's not really what happens all the time. That's the exception rather than the rule. And for a lot of these teams, success comes to them because of who they're practicing with. Like Invictus Gaming still has aggressive and Boboka and Q. They,
Mm-hmm.
they still have XXS. Like how are they?
They need
How is eHome gonna get through?
yeah, they probably need Burning back to be honest, but
That's
uh,
true. I mean, or they
but
need OP back at least.
yeah, but even without those guys, they're still better than most of these teams.
Exactly.
At least on
So
paper,
I'm
right?
not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how what eHome's chances are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to subscribe to the easy narrative that, oh, Xiao Eight's there, the director is gonna be there, so that's gonna be
He's not in
easy
the
for him.
game. What's he gonna do? Like
He's not in the.
listen,
He needs to kick someone.
I
Yeah, right.
like listen. If he was if he like I'm not joking. Like if he actually kicked someone, yeah, maybe I could see it. Because this Xiao Weight's done like more bullshit than this before. Like he picked random four players to
Right.
get into like majors and stuff. Like he's done it. But
That's true. That's true.
as a coach,
Yeah.
I've never like a coach has limited impact. Like they have more power than ever in Dota 2, but there's still like only so much you can do.
Right. And maybe as far as influence goes, Xiao 8 would have more than the average bear, but that's still a big ask. That's still a big ask right now.
Yeah.
There's how many there's what? A day and a half before the opens?
Yeah, they do not have enough time.
They don't have time. If they haven't announced it by now, they're not doing it.
Mhm.
Right? They're not doing it. Let me check on Face It. No, it's not Face It, right?
I
The
have
Chinese ones are not on
I have
Face It.
no clue who's doing them. I I think Face is doing the Europe and NA ones, right?
Yeah, and SEA. They're not doing the China ones. I think the China ones are by Perfect World. Yeah, there's no way I can check either.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's it. Like just to put a cap on that. The China Open qualifiers and closed qualifiers are going to be insane. I think that the other teams in China, on average, are better than a random team from basically every other region.
Mhm.
And with that, I don't know if China's going to have like, uh, or I don't know if eHome's gonna have good chances. Now, to be fair, China will have top two teams qualifying, right? They have two slots,
Yeah.
and in their closed qualifiers, they're allotting 6 open qualifier slots.
Yes.
That's crazy, but whatever, right?
Mhm.
That's crazy, but whatever. So maybe they're gonna get through the open qualifier at least.
But I don't think they get past the next stage. Right? Seems
I
unlikely.
don't. That seems very unlikely. If they do, that's great, right?
Mhm.
If they do, that's great. One of them's gonna have a visa problem, and then Xiao Wei be in DI again. So
Yeah, and then just get one visa issue. Xiao Wei's in there. Xiao Wei's gonna run that to like a top 4 once again.
yeah, right.
Right?
Just like every year.
Or maybe he'll just go to TI as a caster and then pull a resolution. What? You need a stand-in? I can do that.
I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Resolution, Soldier of Fortune
Yeah.
for half the DPC.
He's pretty fucking good. All right. So the other big story outside of the top 4, which is obviously Liquid versus Pro, LGD, Secret. Like I think those are the clear 4 favorites to win TI. Like I have Liquid just gone off the mental fortitude alone. You have VP. But the fifth team, or I guess fifth to sixth team, the one that almost made it, almost pulled a miracle, was Optic, led by PPD,
Yep.
the great leader of America,
Yeah.
the man who almost made America great again, right?
Yeah, the king in North America.
Right, and
Yep.
I called it like 2 years ago. I called it, I guess. I don't know when I started saying it,
Right.
but basically, EG needed to accept PPD as their tyrant, PPD as their one true leader. They didn't. He moved on to Optic, somehow resurrected Pycat, somehow got C and C to a decent level, somehow found 3-3, made him a star player through the off lane, somehow got Zai. Like, it all came together at the end, and Optic is clearly the best NA team. I think there might be a shout out for VG Storm, but I think they're the best right now.
Yeah, I think Optic is very clearly the best NA team, and it's not even. I don't think it's close between all of them. To be honest, like we hear this all the time. In NA, any team can take games out of each other. Yeah, that's true, but relative power level, just globally,
Mm-hmm.
I think Optic is just so much better. They have very clear weaknesses. I'm not gonna give them a free pass on what they're not doing right, but when you take a look at every other team, you take a look at Vici Gaming J Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Vici Gaming J Storm exactly has one speed. If you're a fan of the seminal 90s cartoon Hey Arnold, it's pass the ball to resolution. That's their one move.
That's a pretty good move. Not
It's
gonna
a
lie.
very good move.
Not gonna lie,
It's
it's a pretty good move.
It's a good move, especially snaking is. I think snaking found his one true calling. As a utility, sort of just run the map around and just try and run smoke screens for resolution. But that's their one move, so it's very exploitable. It's a very good move, but it's clearly very exploitable.
Mm-hmm.
EG.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about EG because this is gonna be great. Because you went on that entire rant, like, man, it doesn't matter if you have the talent. EG clearly has the talent in any iteration you want to talk about. They have massive amounts of talent to the point where.
I think it cut off.
Oh, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello?
I think we cut off.
Oh, that's weird.